Welcome, writers, readers, and friends to the Authors Talking Bookish podcast. I'm Donna Norman Carbone, author of All That Is Sacred.
And I'm Hope Gibbs, author of Where the Grass Grows Blue.
We're two debut writers traditionally published by a small publishing house, bringing to you all the experiences that we as authors learn the hard way, so you don't have to.
We'll give you insights from the inception of a book idea to publication and beyond. And along the way, we'll share our love of books from the writer's perspective.
Hello, friends. Welcome back. Welcome to episode 27, From Book Writer to Bookkeeper, Budgeting Your Author Endeavors. I'm Donna Carbone, and I am joined by Hope Gibbs. Hello, Hope.
Hey, Donna, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
You know, I can't believe that the summer has passed. So I guess I'm a little sad about that, but I'm probably not as sad as you are because you have to go back to your full-time job of teaching. Although I know
Not for a few weeks.
Yeah, but it's always exciting, a new school year. So.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I actually am getting ready to go to the Cape right now.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing.
My happy place. I love the Cape. So I know I'm on vacation when I'm at the Cape.
One of these days, I'm going to go to the Cape and you're going to go with me to Sea Island, Georgia. And we'll just kind of, trade our beach experiences.
Yeah, I actually am planning on going to Nantucket this week. So I'll think of you while I'm there.
One of my absolute favorite places on earth. So I wish I could join you.
I know.
So what else has been going on? Are you doing any writing right now? I think you and I talked a little bit that you were probably editing more than writing, correct?
Yeah, I'm editing my third book heavily right now. I get in this zone where I feel like I'm obsessed and it's all I want to do. Do you get like that in any stage of the writing process?
Yes, I do. I actually kind of got motivated a couple of weeks ago and just started writing again. I've kind of gotten into the I'm all about promoting part of being an author, and I've actually forgotten the main part of being a writer is to actually write. But I will say with my first book, especially with line edits, I became obsessed because I had to turn those around in a weekend, which is crazy that I did my line edits in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, that is crazy.
I was insane at that point. And I found out that I had mistakenly named my town, the fictional town that I had lived with for like 3-4 years writing it, that there really was another Summit, Kentucky. And I had to come up with a new name within that same 24 hours. So it was a little crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. I've never done line edits that quickly. That's an insanely short amount of time.
I would not recommend it, but I couldn't procrastinate, so that was a good thing. So,
I set a goal for myself to get this draft done by the time I go back to school because I want to get it out to beta readers.
Have we settled on a name yet?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
I'm not going to share it. I'm not going to share it, but yes, we did.
Okay, awesome. Well, speaking of books, let's talk about it's summer. I love to read in the summer. What are you reading right now?
I am finally reading After Annie by Anna Quinlan. Months ago, I went and I saw Anna Quinlan at RJ Julia. And that was a high point for me because she has long time been one of my favorite authors. And the thing that I was surprised by is how similar her book is to my first book, All That Is Sacred. It's about a woman who dies early in the book, and it's kind of, the aftermath, how her friends and her family are coping with her death. And she also has a voice in the novel as my main character does. So they're, very interesting parallel. So I'm enjoying that very much. How about you?
Well, if it's summer, I'm going to read some Christy Woodson Harvey. It's called A Happier Life. And she is one of the authors that it's an automatic buy. I didn't know anything about this book other than the cover is beautiful. And it's a little bit different than her other covers because I'm going to show you the cover again. So it's more of a cartoony look. And most of her book covers are actual like photographs.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
she's just my go-to author. I don't care what she writes. If she writes a children's book, I will go out and I will buy it. So yeah, so it's summer, and to finish off the summer, because in Tennessee, all of our schools usually start back in August. So August feels like the end of summer for me. So to top off my August, I had to go back to my favorite Southern writer.
Yeah, she's a good go-to summer writer.
She is. And she is amazing on Instagram and on social media. If you want to follow an author who really knows what she's doing and is comfortable in her brand, check
Mm.
her out.
Yeah, I totally agree. I admire her social media. Um, I also admire the fact that she churns books out pretty quickly. Like she's got one a year,
I don't know
which is
how she does it.
impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it very.
yeah.
But I
Well,
think
should
you
we
have,
talk?
I think that's tenacity. And I think that is also someone who is good with time management as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. And she probably, well, she does actually have another job, doesn't she? Isn't she into real estate or interior design or
interior,
something
she's
in
very
that
much in,
lane?
yeah. If you look at her Instagram, she has a mix of, beautiful homes, interiors, and ironically, in one of her book series, one of the main characters is an interior designer.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
I mean,
Wow.
you write what you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So should we talk about our topic today?
Yeah, and this is a tough topic because we're going to talk about money. And
Mm.
I was always taught, don't talk about money.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get too much into our own finances because, we're just not going to do that. But
Hmm.
as a writer, you've got to think about the dreaded word of budgets.
Yeah. You know what? I had not thought about that when I signed my contract. It probably was not until the point that I was thinking about getting reviews and thinking about a Kirkus review, which is pretty costly.
Mhm.
And I reached out to my mentor at Red Adapt and I said, what do you think about this? Is a Kirkus review a good, value? And she said, well, it's pretty pricey. She said, so you really have to think about your budget and how much you're willing to spend, which
Mhm.
means that you might lose that money because you might not recoup it all with your sales. And that was an aha moment for me. I really hadn't considered that when I went into this endeavor. How about you?
Well, again, I told you I didn't plan on writing a book. And when I
Mhm.
was writing my book, I never thought it was going to see the light of day, let alone,
Yeah.
be published. And so, no, I didn't think about that. And then when you get your deal and you're so busy with editing, and as we talked about, line editing, content edits, getting your book cover, all of those things, that's still a very creative mind. You're using your
Mhm.
creative brain. When you're talking about money, you've got to be very, it's more of an analytical thing. You've got to pinpoint what is worth it. And I did the same thing. I had to figure out, do I want to do a Kirkus review? Because if you're, an indie publisher, which we're not self-published, but we're with a small press, our publisher isn't going to pay for a Kirkus review. And with a Kirkus review, they can be brutal, and you don't have to publish it, but that's a lot of money if you're not going to get anything out of it. So Kirkus
Right.
review and trying to actually find early readers, not that you pay them or anything like that. That was the first time that I really had to think about, oh, what am I going to spend my budget? Where am I going to put my money?
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
think
obviously, we're talking about, just so you know, from I love, because Donna came up with this title, from book writer to bookkeeper, budgeting your author endeavors.
yeah. And I think the very first thing you need to determine is how you're going to publish, because based on the different paths to publication, that might, well, it definitely will affect what your budget could and should be. So if you're self-publishing, you have to pay for everything. You have to pay for editors, you have to pay for a cover to be done, unless, you're doing it yourself. But I don't know, it's hard. I think most people don't wear all those hats. So
Mhm.
you do need to reach out to others who have a talent in those areas and can help you out. Um, you're buying your ISBN number, which is something that, I hadn't considered. That's something that our small publisher does. And you're paying for all of your distribution and marketing. Um, in terms of hybrid, you want to talk about hybrid and small press?
Yes, because I did get accepted by 3 hybrids, and I thought about going that direction. So hybrid is exactly what it sounds like. It's a little bit of a traditional publishing way, but you pay. So you're paying all the expenses again, but they lump it all together. So it's kind of like one-stop shopping. You're not going all over the place to get, someone to edit, someone to design, someone to get your book on Amazon. They do that for you, but it can be anywhere between $8,000 up to $20,000, and
Yeah.
that's before you sell a book. And they also get part of your royalties. They're going to get at
Mm.
least 20%. Now you're going to get 80%, but you're already in the hole for tens of thousands of dollars possibly. Now, you're going to get a great product because there are some fantastic hybrid presses out there and their books are really good. I've read several, but you have to figure out, can you make that back? And
Mm.
so I decided not to go hybrid when I got an offer from Red Adept, and it's a small press. It's traditional. They paid for everything. I did not have to pay for anything. They did the editing, they did my cover design. They're the ones who get it distributed. I wouldn't even know how to get my book into someone's hands. I mean, I'm sure I could figure it out, but that wasn't something I could personally do. And the difference is, and unlike traditional presses, I'm getting a higher percentage of royalty with a smaller press than I would if I was with one of the, the big five, so to speak, or one of their imprints. But that's something you have to think about. What you also have to, before you do anything, before you even do a budget, you have to figure out, what is your goal? What
Mm.
is your actual goal with this book or your book coming out, your story coming out? Is it you want to be famous and rich? Well, that's going to be a different, route. Or
Mm.
you just want your story to be heard, or this is a passion project for you. So all of those are going to also align with how you're going to publish, if you're going to self hybrid or go the traditional path.
Yeah. I looked up some statistics, and Mixell Book Publishing is
Mhm.
reporting that this year, indie authors typically earn between 40 and 60% of royalties on their book, whereas agented or big five publishers are paying out 10 to 12%, but they also get an advance.
Yes.
So, and oftentimes an advance also means a multiple book deal, whereas with a small press, it's usually a one book deal at a
Mhm.
time.
Yeah. And the other thing with, if you have an agent and you get, a big advance, you have to make that back before you start getting royalties after the fact, if that makes sense. So, say I give you $5, you're
Mm.
not going to get your royalties until you pay me back my $5, so to speak. And
Yeah.
that's being very simple math. And, Donna and I are not mathematicians. We are authors and
No,
writers.
no, no.
But just to make the math simple, so if you get an advance, which is incredible, you have to earn back the advance before you start getting that 12 to 10 to 12% royalties.
Yeah. Actually, just to mention, Hope and I are obviously with the same small publisher. We both got advances for our audiobook, which was interesting. And same thing, like we until we make back our advance, we don't get royalties on any of the audiobooks that have been sold so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next step on determining your budget, and Donna put together, I loved how she put together this little list of author necessities. These are things that you are going to need to be an author. And number one is a laptop or a computer. I
Mhm.
mean, I guess there's some people out there that still might use a typewriter, but in today's world, the way you're going to get your edits back is going to
Mm.
be through, through the computer. So that is one of the biggest expenses, I think, for probably any author or any someone who's thinking about writing.
Yeah. And I know that every editor that I've ever worked for always wants to work in Word.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure that every editor does. Maybe it's just the ones that I have worked with. But I have a Mac. So I've got to reformat at my, what I'm typing on, because I'm not typing in Word on a Mac. Um, so I've got to reformat that. So that might be an expense as well, to get Word on your computer if it's not a regular PC.
Yeah. So the we've already talked about the laptop. The other thing that you are going to need is an author photo. You can do it yourself. You can hire someone, but you've got to have a headshot out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you need and I used a good friend of mine. She actually plays tennis and she's a professional photographer. Now I paid her and she gave me the copyright for it. But you want to have a professional headshot that you can send to agents if need be, or to put on your social media, but most importantly for your website.
Yeah. And people are going to ask for that too when you get to the point of doing events and what have you, which we'll talk about that actually in the next episode.
Yes.
Um, you're also going to need a website. And in order to get a website, you're going to need a domain name, which is not very costly, but a website can be. And I know that I use the mailer from my website, which is Wix. Some of them come with options to send out mailings, and some of them do not. So that's what you want to check into that, because you will need something to, mail out if you decide you're going to do a newsletter, which is something I would strongly recommend.
Yes. And I don't do a newsletter. I do blog. I've been a little delinquent on my blog this summer just because it's been so busy having my kids back. But yeah, so those are things that you definitely need. But then
Yeah.
there are some things that are optional. You don't have to have these, but you do need some of these. And some of the ideas are, education, conferences, your graphic program. I can't tell you how many times I use Canva in a day.
Yeah.
Because I
Me
use
too.
it not just for my author brand and for my books, but for Bookish Road Trip. I'm a tour guide there. And for authors talking bookish. And there
Mhm.
is a fee for Canva. But the great thing about something like Canva, you've got stock photos that are so important, because you do not want to use photos that you have not paid for or that you
Mhm.
had not personally taken, because you can get sued for that.
Yeah. There's also a free version to Canva, and to some of the other apps that I have, there is a free version. They're very limiting though. I
Mhm,
pay for the subscription for Canva because, like Hope, I use it all the time, daily for sure.
mhm.
For many different things, whether it's, making my bookmarks or my posters, or whether it's making graphics for social media.
Yeah. And you also put in here professional affiliations, like you and I are both part of the WFWA, which is the Women's Fiction Writers Association. And there is there's a yearly fee for that. And then also book reviews. And I never paid anyone like just a person, because I get those, you'll get those spam, I would say,
Yeah.
in your DMs. It'll be like, oh, if you pay me $50, I'll give you a book review. I don't do that. We can't do that. But certain things with like Susie Prude book tours,
Yeah.
that's a different story. She can put together, 20 high profile bookstagrammers, and they give an honest review. And then there's also a thing that you tried this last time called NetGalley.
Yeah.
So you just have to figure out if that's something you want to do. Reviews can be free and you should not be paying someone, randomly, but it's a way to get your book some traction.
Yeah. Yeah, the NetGalley was worked out really well for me. I got a lot of reviews as a result of that. And the one that I did, you can pay for NetGalley, which is pretty expensive. But I did one that was a co-op. And so there is a woman, I think it's Victoria's co-op or something. Um, I'll figure that out and I'll put it in the show notes in case you're interested. But so she takes a lot of authors and puts them together and puts us out on NetGalley. And you can do it for 1 month, you can do it for 2 months, you can do it for 6. And so it's not a very hefty fee. And I found that it was well worth it.
Yeah. And for those who may not understand the word NetGalley, because I didn't until I was, trying to get reviews, I did not do NetGalley, but it's a great place where you sign up and you get to read all these advanced copies and you can leave reviews. And for the author, the benefit of that is that when you go on Goodreads, that book is already getting book reviews before the publication date. Because with Amazon, you can't write a review for a book until the day it drops. So
Yeah.
on release day. But the reason it's important is because Goodreads, the more reviews you get, it just helps, and it helps with Amazon. The more reviews you have, the more it gets pushed up this magical algorithm. No one seems to know how it works,
Mm.
but the one thing you do know, the more reviews, the better your book can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are a lot of librarians on NetGalley as well. So
Yeah.
that's one of the benefits.
And some more other optional book swag, free giveaways, and entry fees for festivals. Now, this is something that I've done a few book festivals, and they've been wonderful, wonderful experiences.
Mm,
But sometimes with a budget going forward, I don't necessarily, unless it's within a driving distance of my home.
mm.
And if I have to stay at a hotel, I probably won't do that in the future because it is an expense. It's a wonderful it's a wonderful experience. You get to meet very eager readers and other
Mm.
authors, but those book festivals can be very expensive for authors, especially indie authors.
Yeah. I also have done like craft fairs, and craft fairs also charge a fee. So you need to really determine, what is the fee and what am I going to make back sitting there with my books, trying to sell my books. And I have found that some of them that I've done have been very lucrative and some of them not so much.
Yeah.
So just be mindful. I know there's one in my town that charges like $350,
Wow.
which is a lot of money. Um, and then there are others that are much more reasonable. So those are the ones that I lean toward.
And it's also something to be said that time is money. So
Mm,
while you're sitting there for a day or two, you're engaging. Yes, you are meeting people, but you're also losing time on things you could be, doing other things like actually writing. So remember that your time is just as valuable as, we're talking, dollars and cents. So
yeah.
something else that you talked about, people you don't even think about postage and supplies. I
Mm,
mean, that's true because I cannot tell you how much I have spent on sending out my book to, people who have asked for it, giveaways. I mean,
mm,
FedEx, especially FedEx and the post office, when I would go, they knew exactly what I was walking in there for.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just looked. I keep a spreadsheet of actually all my finances, which I'll talk about later on in this episode. But I just looked at the amount of giveaways that I've done so far this year, and I've given away 16 books. So that's 16 books times whatever the postage is to get those out.
Yeah, and you can't just mail those with a stamp, and
Yeah,
you have to have a special package. I mean, it's the one that I use. It's got bubble wrap on the inside, and then it's
yeah.
more expensive. And of course, they're going to ask you, "Is there anything else in here besides a book?" And
Right.
I always give
Anything
away,
flammable in here?
yeah, I always give away like a bookmark as well and a thank you note. But again, all of that adds up. So,
Yeah.
Donna, we're talking about this spreadsheet. Can you give us a little
Yeah.
more insight here?
So I do. I put a spreadsheet together and I put everything on it. My husband actually, I have to give him credit, some props because I don't know how to do the spreadsheet that like accumulates all the money, like adds everything together and does the tabulation at the bottom. So he did that for me and he created like a pull down menu with all of the different things that I spend money on, whether it's awards, whether it's giveaways. And so it just sort of adds up. The whole thing is color coded and it's wonderful. I can put a picture of it in the show notes on our website so you can see it. But yeah, it's very helpful to keep track of.
Yes. Well, I can't believe that we're already at our 25-minute mark. I mean, I feel like that this episode has flown by and it's uncomfortable to talk about it, but as I've always said that, writing sometimes, can come from our heart, but when you're publishing, it's a business. This is a straight up business and you have to look at it in that way, and sometimes it's very uncomfortable, but you need to have, you don't have to have everything line by line, but you need to start weighing, is this worth it? Because you can spend a lot of money being an author,
Yeah.
and find out what is best for you and for your book. So Donna, what is our due now? Our teacher, I know you're off for vacation, but tell our audience, what is their due now?
Well, before I do the do now, I want to just quickly mention the sources that we have on our show notes. We have 3 articles about how to budget for a new author. We have 3 books, and I also included a website that when I was thinking that I might self-publish, which I decided against ultimately, but there was a fellow that I found and has offered a lot of good advice. His name is David Gaughran. And I also learned how to do Facebook ads with him. So check him out on YouTube. He has so many different insights into publishing, marketing, self publishing. He was a gem to find. So I wanted to share that with you. In terms of the do now, educate yourself, determine which path to publication you're going to take so you know what your responsibilities will be in terms of finances beyond your book launch. Create a cost assessment list and establish what your priorities are. And we do have a free download that will help you do that and kind of put together all of the things that are essential for you or optional for you.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought up Facebook ads, because that we didn't even talk about that. That is something else.
Yeah.
Facebook ads, Amazon ads, even doing a book giveaway on Goodreads. That those are expenses. So
Yeah.
I really think in the future we're going to have to do a Facebook ad podcast, because that really has helped my book gain a lot of traction and sales. So I'm so glad you brought him up, because you shared that with me, and that was one of the most confusing things, to try to get a Facebook ad and have him break it down. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, it was one of the best things that I have run across, and you actually gave it to
Well,
me.
I'm
So
glad.
I know. I love it. So, real quick, as always, you can find us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, and YouTube. And you can find us at authorstalkingbookish.com. And again, I feel like we could talk about this all day, but we have to go. And Donna, can you tell everyone what is our next episode?
Yeah, our next episode, we're going to dive into preparation for and booking events. So we will see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Hope Gibbs.
And I'm Donna Norman Carbone. It's time for you to get to work.
We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks with another tip from your author friends.